Hi guys, welcome to Thermomix New Ventures. My name is Lisa Keegan and I'm hoping to inspire you more today with what else you can do with your Thermomix. Now today I'm going to show you sauerkraut, and I was actually led to do this from the new cookbook. So in here you will find a kraut recipe. Now it is different to the one we've been doing for very many years, and many of you have seen that recipe a couple of times over the last few years. Today I'm going to do a different version though. Every other time I've shown you just a standard cabbage kraut, today I'm going to show you a flavored one. So come join me today to see that. But they've got their version in here as well. So it isn't yet available on Cookie Do. So it is a manual recipe, but I've been doing it manually for years anyway. So come along today and I'll show you how we make sauerkraut in our Thermomix and how we've been doing it for very many years. So first thing I'm going to do is make the flavoring. So today our most common thing is we either do 1 week of standard just cabbage, and then the next week we'll do cabbage and a flavor, and our normal is beetroot and carrot. The kids don't know there's carrot in there though, so don't tell them. But this beetroot and this carrot is from our garden. I am using this week as well the heads of the carrots to make the carrot head pesto, the greens. So I'm excited to show you that as well. But into the Thermomix goes the carrots. Make sure they're well washed, okay? Something really important in making fermented stuff is that it's going to sit on your bench. So if there's any foreign particles in there, it's actually going to grow, and it's going to grow things you don't want to grow in your food, like mold. So you'll need to make sure your vessel is sterilized. I'll talk about this in a moment. And you need to make sure you've cleaned your veggies. So make sure that the carrots are washed. The beetroot we have chopped and peeled, in that goes, and they're both fresh. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this down, and those of you with a Thermomix, you'll know chopping's really simple and easy. 5 seconds, speed 5 is all it's going to take at the most. It might even take less. I'll cook with my ears and listen. But we're going to chop this down and we're going to add it to our vessel, which has been well and truly cleaned. So I wash it with warm soapy water, make sure everything's gone. In theory, you should sterilize it. We don't go that far. We actually even go as far as if it does grow something on top, we tend to just scoop it off and it's right to go. There are times we have throw in it though, because you'll know it'll smell really bad if it's bad. So it's one of those things, there's no in between. You'll be like, oh, this is okay and this is not okay. You will find they coat our veggies. Now we haven't grown our cabbage, and they coat our veggies in some sort of waxy spray. When you do make this with a bought cabbage, you do get a white film on the top. It is not mold. It is a film, and it is waxy. You just scrape it off, throw that bit away. Ours goes to our chickens. You can put it in the compost, and then you're good to keep going with this. That does not smell. The mold is what smells. You'll know if it's gone moldy and gone too far. And if it's grey, it's gone too far, you need to compost it and dig it in your garden. So back to this though, 5 seconds, speed 5 is the maximum. Let's just see how long it takes. I reckon that's it, perfect. You'll notice I work on a bit of a, it's a kitchen benchy thing here. It's not fixed, so I do get a bit more movement on my Thermomix with chopping and kneading are my 2 spots. I get more movement than usual. There we go, look at that. Isn't that so vibrant? That would make a beautiful fresh salad. So if you're watching along and you don't have a Thermomix, things like chopping and grating are a thing of your past. It will do that in seconds, and just means you save your fingers, one less appliance in the kitchen. You don't need a food processor when you've got a Thermomix. It's all done in the Thermi. So I'm going to put this into my beautiful clean jar. Now I'm just going to, this is this Kilner jar is from online. Just look them up. We've been using it for very many years because we need to do things in bulk because there's 6 of us here at our house, and I don't get paid to say this, but I do like the Kilner brand. Okay, so certainly not paid, sponsored or anything like that, but the Kilner brand has served us really well because of the lid it's got on it. So we've tried in the past with covering it with just a cloth, and for whatever reason we really struggled to get it to stay without mold. So it does need an exchange of air. It needs to be able to carbonize and ferment, or create carbon in that fermenting process, and so it needs to be able to get air in and out. And we just, I don't know whether it's the little sour flies we get at home, but we've never succeeded in actually just putting a cloth on top. So what I love about these Kilner jars is their lid. All right, now this, as I said, online, just go Google it, go Google Kilner sauerkraut, and I think it'll come up, or even fermenting. And that just goes on like that. And this has water in it, and it creates an airlock where the air can get out, but things can't get in, which is important. It can do that exchange without the bugs getting inside of it. Really important for fermenting. And I like now as well that this part you can actually buy as a standalone. I made the mistake a few years ago of putting this through the dishwasher, this part, this rubber part, and it doesn't go well in the dishwasher. So we've been operating on 2 jars and 1 vent. So yeah, I was able to jump online and grab a spare. So I love it when you can get the spare parts. Nothing, you know, I really just didn't like the idea of not being able to have what I needed. So chopped veggies, first part done. Okay, next part. Now we're going to do the cabbage part. Now, what I've noticed with the recipe they've got in the cookbook is you still got to manually do stuff with your hands. We've got this down to a fine art where you no longer need to do this manually. It massages it in the Thermomix. So what do? We put in, first of all, 400 grams of cabbage. Now your cabbage has to fit down the blade shafts in there. So we're just going to chop that into chunks that they can fit down there. And 400, by the way, is the maximum I find we can fit in here to get a nice chop, an even chop. So let's put this in. That's 150. May actually be half of one of these. We'll see how we go. Each cabbage is a little different, obviously, depending on the texture of the leaves, how tightly they're woven in will depend on how much you can get out of it, how many batches out of a cabbage. Keep the stem out, okay? Compost that, or we've got chickens, it'll go to our chickens. Use it for your next lot of veggie stock, that is also okay as well. You'll notice we're going to need the spatula in the next step. Now it is the spatula you got with your Thermomix. Don't go using, you know, your other ones, because we need to be able to push it in the lid. And because cabbage is so floaty, we're going to lose some of these leaves where they bounce around on the top. The actual spatula forces it down. Really is what it does. So in goes this. What am I up to? 350. I will go to 400 just to show you what that looks like today. I do have another half a cabbage, so I will at a later date put more into this so that we get more fuller of a jar. Oh, not there yet. I'm just going to take up nearly half a cabbage. There we go. All right, so next up, we put the lid on. Now we need to do it on reverse because we're actually aiming to pull the leaves, not particularly chop them all down, okay? We're not grating them. So what we're going to do, and I'm just checking my instructions here, is we're going to go reverse speed 4. It's going to take about 10 seconds, but we need the spatula in the hole to push those stray bits down. So please remember to put it on reverse, which if you've got a TM31, it's on a button on the right side. If you've got a TM5, it's on your grey section. If you've got a TM6, it is under our number, our speed number. We're going to go up to now reverse. I'm going to just take this number off. See how it's got 5 seconds from before? Did you guys know with the TM6, you just swipe it off the screen? It'll go back to 0. All right. You could scroll it back too, or hold it down 3 seconds. I like swiping. So up to speed 4, it's going to take about 10 seconds. But again, listen with your ears. You'll know when it's done. It's on reverse. Give it a push down and a stir around. I forgot that I hadn't put a timer on, so I've gone a little over, doesn't really matter. Let's have a look and see. Sometimes you'll find there'll be some big floaty leaves on the top still. Just fish them out ready for the next batch because you're going to need to do another batch. And you'll see here, let me just lift you up and show you. You can see we haven't done too badly. You'll see there's a couple of long ones there, but predominantly they're all pretty good. So now we're going to, I'll put that aside for the next batch. We're going to leave it in here. We're not transferring it aside yet because it hasn't been massaged. Now the next step is really important. We're actually going to add to the Thermomix 1 tablespoon of salt. So 400 grams of veggies and 1 tablespoon of salt. In this goes. And now we're going to put this on for 10 minutes. And this 10-minute time frame is it gives it a chance to start massaging out the leaves. And it starts that process off for us. So we're going to put the lid back on. We're going to put it on for 10 minutes. And this is the beauty of the Thermomix, is you get to walk away. When you're processing, cooking, things like that, you don't need to stay in your kitchen. Now it's going up to speed 2, and we're just going to leave it. In 10 minutes time, I will come back and I will show you how we then put it into here and do our next step. So I'll see you in 10 minutes time for the next step in this recipe. See you soon. Okay, welcome back everybody. This has now done actually a few loads of the cabbage. So what I did off camera is I did the original load you saw, it did its 10 minutes. I then put it aside. I then put in another 400 grams with some more salt, and I did it aside after 10 minutes, and now I've done a third load, and I want to show you what this looks like so you know what it looks like when you do it in your Thermomix. So after you've had that 10-minute time, you'll see now that it looks really quite frothy. Anyone would have thought that there was dishwashing detergent in there. It's that sort of froth. What we're going to do from there, that means it's actually done. It means it's pulling those good stuff from the inside of those leaves to the outside. We're now going to transfer this into whatever you're going to use, whatever vessel you're going to use, and we're going to finish it up. So this is the end of the cabbage. That was one whole cabbage in the end. In it goes. Now, something I forgot to add throughout was I actually forgot to add the caraway seeds. Now these are very important if you're doing a plain one where it's just cabbage. They give it a flavor, a slight flavor, but it's not so important when you're doing, like today we've done the carrot and the beetroot, which by the way, it's down the bottom. Don't worry about that. You'll find it'll actually make its way up as it ferments. So you don't even need to stir that through. It will find its own way up over the next at least a week. Okay, depends on your weather as to how long this process takes. If it's really warm in summer, it takes us 7 days on the bench. When it gets to winter, it's more like 10 days, 2 weeks, until we remember or till we need it, and that's perfectly okay as well. When it is fermented, you can then put it in the fridge, all right, and then it kind of stalls that fermenting process. I will add a few of these caraway seeds. If you don't have them, you can go without. It really doesn't matter too much, especially on a flavored one like this. And again, it doesn't matter that I'm adding them on the top. It'll all just make its way as it bubbles and ferments over the next few weeks. So from here on in, what do? We need to compress it down, but we also need to cover it with some more brine. So into the Thermomix, I'm going to add some salt and some water. So I'll just bring up the scales. We're going to put into the machine 400 grams of water. Filtered is usually best, just because it gets rid of any of the chlorine and stuff that they like to add to our water. So filtered is best if you can. Another tablespoon of salt. Where did my spoon go? I don't know. I'm just going to guesstimate. And this also gives you a chance to kind of wash out the bowl, is what it also does at this point in time. Oh, there's my spoon. It's back there. So it'll give that bowl a chance to rinse out. So on with that lid. And just up to speed 6, not long. And what we're looking for here is when we put this over, we need about 2 to 3 centimeters worth of liquid on top. Also, by the way, with whatever container you're using, make sure you've got headroom, okay? Anything that ferments, grows, it bubbles, it does all that sort of stuff. So you want to make sure it's got enough headroom to be able to do that, which means you can't fill it up too much. So I'm going to put some of this in now, and then I'm going to actually use my weights. Now, we've not spoken about the weights yet, and the weights are important. What the weights do is they stop our liquid floating to the surface. So you do need to make sure they're sterilized, ready to go. And I just sterilize mine in boiling water. These come with this jar, okay? But you could use a cabbage leaf pushed down with a jar of water on top or something like that. Before we had this jar, that's how we did it. We actually put a jar, little small jar inside of a big jar, but it had water in it, so I pushed it down. So we want to put our 2 weights in like that. We're going to give it a push down. I don't want to use my fingers and get them dirty. So I'm going to push this down. We do want to make sure our cabbage stays underneath. You can see it's really quite frothy, perfectly normal. So give it a good shove. We're trying to get the air pockets actually out of the cabbage as much as we can. You can put a bit of a long bladed knife or a cake spatula down there and help move those bubbles around. It will naturally kind of fill in anyway. Now we've got froth on top. That's not going to actually protect it too much to help that ferment process. We actually want this liquid here. So we'll put that in. Doesn't matter if there's too much is better than not enough. Okay. that froth will kind of disintegrate itself. Dissolve is probably the word I'm after. And just do its own thing, so don't stress about that. And now we put our top on, and I've put a little bit of water in there as well. So it's made up of 3 parts. It's got can you see the pressure in there about pushing that air out? It's got 3 parts, and one of them is a little center part that means it doesn't let the bugs in. So now that's actually ready to go. You'll see as it sits on the counter the next week, and so you'll see this all start to move around. You'll see the pink moves up, the seeds go down. You'll end up with quite a more even look, although I do tend to find that the pink tends to be at the top, strangely. But now it sits on the counter, out of the sun, not in a dark spot though, just normal room somewhere, and let it do its thing. Also not near somewhere hot. Don't put it on your stove, you know, or somewhere that's going to get really different temperatures. Just on a bench, out of the way, and let it do its thing. And then in about a week's time, it's currently coming into winter here, so we'll probably look at doing this in 10 days to 2 weeks. You can taste it and check that it's soured. We tend to just know that it's ready and put it and fix lid on it, or decant it into smaller jars and put it in your fridge ready to have however you like it. Now, if you're wondering how on earth do I eat this stuff, we eat it with bacon and eggs in the morning. We also at times will have it on sandwiches with, say, some sliced meat, also with salads. So it's just beautiful, pretty. It's also really good for your gut health, which is why we do it as well. So I hope you have felt inspired and you now know how to make sauerkraut, so that when you're ready, you can give this a go in your TM, however that might be. Do reach out if I can support you. If you've got questions, if you've got concerns, if yours starts growing white funky stuff on top that's looking grey, send me a picture. I'd love to help support you to troubleshoot and get the most out of your Thermomix and achieve this with your Thermomix if you want to. But otherwise, guys, thanks for joining today. I hope you do feel inspired and you've learned more about what else you can do with your Thermomix. Take care, reach out if I can help you with anything, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.